So welcome everyone to another Talks with Sato on Money on Chain. My name is Crypto Luis and I'm very happy to salute to you, and we have a very interesting topic today. Big news for all the Rootstock ecosystem and Money on Chain as well, and a very special guest. So we're gonna let him in so you can meet him. He's Kilian from Boltz Exchange. Welcome, Kilian.
Hi, thanks for having me, Luis. Nice to be here.
No, thank you for your time, and I'm very excited to have this discussion with you because we since Rootstock was founded, we have always looking into ways of integrate this sidechain into the Bitcoin network and overall the ecosystem. So I know you are doing a good job onto that. Even working with other sidechains like Liquid, and I know you will tell me more about your other projects. But yeah, all our followers are very excited about this, and I hope they tune in right now so they can hear it from you. What are you planning to do with your projects at Boltz Exchange?
Sure, yeah, cool. Happy to talk about it. Yeah, you want us to wait a little bit for people to tune in, or
we could wait, but this will be recorded, so maybe they can see it after. So there's no time to waste. But let's start with maybe a little introduction of yourself and how did you get into Bitcoin, a little bit of your background and your story. I'm sure that's very interesting.
Yeah, that's a fun one. My story, how I got into Bitcoin. So my name is Kilian. I'm one of the co-founders of Boltz, and my journey and my venture into Bitcoin started in late 2015, early 2016. So a couple of years already by now. Mm-hmm. And funnily, I like everyone, I guess, I was not in Bitcoin at all, not privately, nor professionally, working in the automotive industry back in China back then in 2015, and was working for a pretty Chinese supplier of automotive parts, and it just happened that the supplier got bankrupt, got bust. And one day I found myself on the street and was like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do now? How am I continuing with my life? And I forgot the exact chain of events, but I ended up going to some Bitcoin meetup in Shanghai back then, and got aware that BTC China, one of the biggest exchanges back then, I think second biggest mining pool, was actually located. They had offices in Shanghai. So long story short, I went there for an interview, and 2 days later, I was working in Bitcoin without knowing anything about Bitcoin really, and got to know Samson Mo back then. He was my boss, and so he basically he drew me into it. He convinced me it's a good idea to give it a shot, even though I was very skeptical. Yeah, so that's pretty much the story. An accident, lucky coincidence.
Yeah, so basically he's like your Bitcoin godfather. Like
yeah, you could say so. Yes, I'm very grateful that he convinced me that day. In the interview that we had to give it a shot, because I was like, the
sure
was on the top of the game, but I was like, what convinces you that the authorities won't march in tomorrow and close down this whole thing, which eventually happened, but only much later.
Yeah, but even then it was a brave thing to do, to engage with Bitcoin in China,
Yes. It was super exciting. I loved it. It was an adventure every day to go to the office. You never knew what was happening. A couple of weeks later, I was in a mining farm in Sichuan in the middle of the jungle, and it was like, well, what am I doing here? But yeah, it was fun.
Mining facilities can be really impressive. By the first time you see it, like they are huge, and that must be very surprising for you to know that something like that existed.
Yes, definitely. The size, also the entrepreneurial spirit that the operators had was basically one guy. I think he had like 12 hydropower plants and somehow didn't manage to get licenses to actually feed the electricity into the grid. So he was sitting on all this stranded electricity and didn't know what to do. And that's somehow how he figured out to start a Bitcoin mining operation, which turned out to be much more profitable for him than selling electricity.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of really interesting stories. It was super exciting and super interesting to have my hands on that very early.
Yeah. So what were you doing there?
At BTC China, I was product manager for the mining pool for a short time. That's how I got my hands on like practical experience with regards to miners. And then later on, I was heading a mobile wallet that, like a very easy to use wallet that allowed you to send Bitcoin to a phone number. It was a custodial wallet. Now knowing that this probably wasn't the best design decision, but back then it was the thing to do. And what it allowed you to do is basically send Bitcoin to contacts of your phone book. So that was pretty cool at parties to send a couple of satoshis to people.
So later in this stream, I want to talk about that, about the user experience and interface and the product. I think it's a very important factor to boost Bitcoin adoption and education as well, because people get to know how to use Bitcoin and do transactions and basically how it works in a seamless way. But then afterwards, I mean, you just became an entrepreneur. How did you get to found Boltz Exchange? Maybe there's a giant leap between these two things, but
good question. So the next project I was working on after BTC China was already something resembling or like a decentralized exchange using Lightning. So Lightning only came up back then. It was in late 2017, early 2018, when the first stable versions of LND came out, and the first versions that you actually could use on the mainnet came out. And what I tried to do with this project was to build an exchange based on the Lightning network. So the idea was to connect Bitcoin and the Lightning network with, back then there was the Lightning network of Ethereum called Raiden, to have swaps between USDT on Ethereum and Bitcoin on Lightning. That was the idea. And Boltz was really born as a side project, as a band-aid for this decentralized exchange, in order to get people on and off the Lightning network. So that was the job of Boltz, basically. Once you open a channel, but you need liquidity on one side of the channel, but or in the other. We started Boltz as a separate project that would deliver this service, and finally the project died, but Boltz survived and is now the main thing. And basically, founding the real founding never happened, in the sense that it was always there. It was a side project, and just now it's the main project, and it's I and my colleagues were doing it full time since more than a year now, and that's basically how Boltz started.
Awesome. So you started small as a side project, and now it's becoming this big company, I suppose. I don't know if it is that's big, but it's certainly useful for a few clients out there.
Yeah, we are 5 people now. I would say 4 like full time. So it's not that big. Definitely, we are a small team in the small company, but we're quite effective, I guess, right? So we have a reach. We have a lot of integrations, and I think, yes, we are very useful we have users that probably only use us once a month to do their, rebalance their or recharge their mobile wallet. We have professional users that use us every day programmatically via our API. So we have different sets of users. The beautiful thing is we cannot tell how many users we have. It's all anonymous. We don't have the concept of accounts or users. We just see swaps happening. But yes, especially over the last year, we grew quite a bit, and we increased our reach.
There's been a huge debate about privacy and Lightning centralization and all that stuff. That's a common topic to be discussed among Bitcoiners about Lightning. So maybe you can explain us a little bit about how Boltz work from that perspective about not having user accounts. How do you protect privacy? How do you keep self-custody if that's the case?
It is, yes. Good question. So, well, it was a couple of things that you wrapped into one question. So let me try to decompose it a bit. So, we are a privacy-first, a privacy-focused service, meaning we do not ask for any personal identifiable information, like not even an email address, no, nothing. You just go to the website, Boltz Exchange, and you start a swap directly with your wallet. So there's no information required or whatsoever. Nevertheless, if you use the website, of course, you would be, for example, exposing your IP. Or if you, receive a Lightning payment from us, we can see the destination. Right? So that's all stuff that we are slowly adding security features for, or privacy features for, to also improve these. For example, you can use our service entirely via the Tor network. So the web app is reachable via the Tor network, as well as our node. So you can have a channel relationship with us, entirely using the Tor network. So all that is possible by now. And in principle, we only have information that we crucially need in order to deliver the service, like the address you want to receive the money on, or the Lightning invoice you want to receive the Lightning funds on. So, but we're not a privacy solution. So Boltz is not, let's say, a substitute for a CoinJoin or for something like that. This is not our focus area. Our focus area is very different. We want to be a tool to move in between different layers. We don't want to be a tool that delivers perfect privacy, right? So that other solutions are focusing on that, especially CoinJoin networks. Lightning, what was your point about Lightning?
Self-custody.
Self-custody, yes. Yeah, self-custody. So Boltz swap, so when you go to Boltz Exchange, so what you can do there is you can swap between one kind of Bitcoin and another. For example, Bitcoin main chain to Bitcoin Lightning, Bitcoin main chain or Bitcoin Lightning to Liquid. And very soon, and I think that's what we're talking about today, is also Lightning to RBTC on Rootstock, and also main chain to RBTC. So the idea is really to help users go and use the different ecosystems that exist on these layers. And a very important property of delivering the service is to make it non-custodial for various reasons. That is, first, from a user perspective, of course, I don't want to trust the service that I'm using. I don't want to trust that if I send you main chain Bitcoin, that I'm getting Lightning funds indeed back. So in order to make the service non-custodial, we are leveraging a technology called atomic swaps. So atomic swaps, all swaps on Boltz, whatever swap you do is an atomic swap. And what it means is, in very simple terms, we cannot steal money, neither can the user steal money, because the two transactions that happen in a swap, one going from the user to Boltz and one going from the Boltz back to the user, they're cryptographically linked. And that means that either both transactions execute or none of them. So there's just no way that only one of them can go through, but the other not. It gets complicated really fast if you go into the weeds and bits and the details, but that's the basic principle underpinning swaps at Boltz.
Definitely, atomic swaps seems even the term sounds like something magical or some kind of mystery that happens behind the scenes. It's very complicated to explain how it works. I remember that when we met in El Salvador, you were giving these lessons to the Toro Goss students, and I was like completely lost on your explanations, trying to understand, and I still do. Like, there's been a long time I've been hearing about atomic swaps, and it's complicated, but I think you gave a fair explanation about how these
on a high level. Yeah, on a high level, I think it's fairly easy to understand. It's basically both executes or none, and like this, nobody can steal from each other, neither us nor the user. That's the only thing most users need to understand. What we did in El Salvador was a developer workshop, so it was basically the developers programmatically implementing these swaps, which of course is a whole nother level, and you need a lot more cryptographic knowledge and details in order to do that.
Yeah, all I could see was lines of codes and all that.
Yes. But for regular users, they don't need to know any of that, right? So they go to the website, to Boltz Exchange, and all that atomic swap crypto magic is actually happening in the browser. So the web app does it for you, and the user doesn't really see or feel anything about it. It's just like how much they want, next. That's it, right? So it's easy to use.
So I have a question. When I try to swap from Lightning to on-chain, it's like I'm swapping with another user, or I'm swapping with Boltz. Maybe you are providing the liquidity.
Yes.
Do that? Okay.
Yes. Always us. Reason for that is mainly reliability. Because you cannot guarantee that another user would be online in that moment, especially with Lightning. You have to be online and reachable, and have to have liquidity, and it's actually not that easy to be a reliable Lightning swap partner. That's why we decided the only model where we can offer a good UX is that we are the swap counterparty. The liquidity always comes from us for every single trade.
Yeah, it involves to make to coordinate outside of the Lightning network to be able to swap with another user. I mean, you have to make sure that the other user is online, so the transaction can be successful.
Exactly.
So it's good to know that. So that take us to the concept of a Lightning service provider. I know you told me like Boltz is not a Lightning service provider, but I would like you to explain the proper terms about Boltz and what a Lightning service provider is.
Yes. So we had precisely this discussion with a group that is called the LSP Spec Group. It's mainly Lightning companies that are maintaining specs that an LSP, a Lightning service provider, has to follow. And the discussion was precisely, is something like Boltz a Lightning service provider, yes or no? And the answer from the spec group was no. The reason for that is they define a Lightning service provider very similar and very close to the definition of an internet service provider. It is the access point, the direct route into the Lightning network, and that means concretely that the Lightning service provider has a channel relationship with the user. So in most cases, that means there's one private channel between the LSP and the user, and that is being managed by the LSP. And then the user always goes via this private channel and the LSP into the wider Lightning network to send and receive payments. And since we do not have that, we do not have direct channels with users, nor do we manage them. Users can have channels with us, but it's not a requirement. You can do a Boltz swap from any wallet. If you have a somewhat okay connectivity to the Lightning network, you will be able to pay the invoices that we give you. So the the technical details are a little bit different here. But here's the big but. We are, from a UX standpoint, we're coming pretty close now to what other LSPs are delivering. The most famous LSP is probably Async with Phoenix. So the Phoenix Lightning Wallet is it's one of the most famous and most robust and well-built Lightning wallets. And they manage the channels with the users, and they do that very well and very sophisticated. And in the end, that means the user is having a private channel with the async node, and the async node handles the payments and forwards the payments to the wider network. Recently, we launched something that, in my opinion, from React, comes pretty close to that with the Aqua wallet. So with Aqua, the concept is that you're basically holding your Bitcoin on Liquid in LBTC. So Aqua only has a very basic Liquid chain wallet integrated, but you still can send and receive from the Lightning network via Boltz swaps. So it allows you, in the Aqua app, it says layer 2 balance, and then you say pay to Lightning. And we say pay to Lightning, you can just, it feels exactly the same way as Phoenix. You can scan an invoice, it scans the invoice and just pays. What's happening under the hood is that it's actually sending Liquid Bitcoin into a Boltz swap, and then Boltz via the swap is paying the invoice that you're paying, I don't know, at the coffee shop. So from a UX standpoint, in my opinion, this is very close and similar to a Lightning service provider, as in we are the connection of the user into the wider Lightning network, and we enable them to pay to anyone in the Lightning network, just with the difference that we do not have a Lightning channel with the user, and the user actually doesn't have anything Lightning on their phones.
Yeah, that was something similar to what I was referring to in the beginning of this conversation, is that the user might not be able to know everything that happens behind the scenes of a wallet, So instead of making the user to manually do the swap between Liquid and Bitcoin and Lightning, you just, from the user interface, you just enable them to send whatever kind of funds they have available at the moment. They can send them over Lightning, and you will do the swap or the exchange under the hood, like you said.
Exactly. So that's basically our goal, to utilize our service in a way that is immediately useful for users, but they don't even need to know that this is happening under the hood. Some users might not even know that Boltz is involved under the hood, because it's Aqua wallet for them. So that's the goal. So, and that's also something we want to focus on in the next weeks and months, is to have more integrations, native integrations, that's how we call them, to have Boltz swaps natively integrated in the product in a way that makes immediate sense in the product, without users needing to go to our website or do some manual stuff. For them, it's just a natural flow directly within the app.
Yeah, so we hope that you are able in the upcoming weeks and months to work with Rootstock wallets to integrate Boltz and for the upcoming swap feature. So yeah, let's talk about it. I feel I didn't want you to make the announcement, or push you into to do it, but I think it's it's out of the box.
Yes.
Now. Like
that's fine.
we
Yes.
just did it, but tell us more about it.
Yes, so we are in the middle of the process of integrating RBTC swaps into Boltz, and we're actually pretty far along. So it's not that we just have the idea and started. It's pretty far already. So what is already working, and where there's only a couple of minor details to be changed, is the swap between Lightning and RBTC. And that's already live on testnet, and I invite everyone, including money on-chain users, anyone that has somehow a Rootstock testnet wallet available, to test it out at testnet.boltz.exchange. There, RBTC swaps are already publicly available, and you can try them out safely on testnet. And what is still missing, and that's something we want to ship immediately with our BTC swaps, is swaps to the main chain and from the main chain as well. So you can directly go main chain to RPTC and back. And the real work, then basically after launching it, it will be available on the website, and folks can manually do that. For example, they are using money on chain and they say, okay, they click the receive RBTC button on money on chain and paste the rootstock address into Boltz Exchange into the swap interface, and they can do that, yes, but the real work will be in the weeks and months thereafter, after we launched rootstock swaps publicly, to actually natively integrate with projects like money on chain. And what I think is pretty cool, and that's what I'm excited about, is I think ecosystems on Rootstock have a lot of potential, but they didn't fully reach that potential yet in the past. And one of the reasons is that it's still fairly difficult, and it's a high barrier to even get RPTC and get to try out the platforms. I mean, especially trying out means not too much money, right? So if I don't know anything about money on chain, probably I don't put 10,000 bucks on there. I probably put 100 or 50, right? So to try things out. And that's where Lightning is very powerful, because Lightning is designed to be used for very small amounts in a very efficient and fast way. So our swaps will deliver exactly that. So you can have a deposit with Lightning button in money on chain, in other projects as well, and you can deposit 50 bucks and just play around, see how it works, and try different features of the platform. And any Bitcoiner with a Lightning wallet is able to do that. So that's something I'm really excited about.
Yeah, that's interesting to explain, because in the current fee markets, like, on-chain fees have increased, and that affects also Rootstock, what we call poke peg, or peg in and peg out. When you convert Bitcoin to RBTC, it involves to pay the Bitcoin miners fee, which can get very high now. So I'm interested to know how Lightning fixes this, because I could see that Lightning is made for small payments, it's cheaper, it's faster. But how do you combine that with the peg in and peg out system of Rootstock?
Yes,
to make it cheaper for the user, and make the Rootstock ecosystem to be more accessible for other users.
Yes. So most users, in my opinion, shouldn't have to use the official peg in and peg out mechanism at all. So that makes sense. The official peg in peg out system is the most cost-effective way for large players, I would say, because, like you said, it involves main chain transactions, which are just inherently expensive. Most users that just want to play around with a little bit of money should use the Lightning, in my opinion, because it has several advantages. It is definitely much cheaper for smaller amounts. It is almost instant fast. Yeah, like on the official peg in peg out, you actually need to wait for 100 blocks on the main chain, which is like more than half a day. Most users don't understand or can't comprehend the concept of waiting for a deposit for that long amount of time. And it's final, and Lightning payments are final in the moment they arrive. So our swaps will enable basically going from your Phoenix Lightning wallet or Arc wallet, whatever let it be, into money on chain within 20 seconds. And within 20 seconds, you will be able to start using stuff in money on chain. So that is the real powerful feature that Lightning swaps deliver without touching the main chain. So you do not need to touch the main chain, and basically, no matter what the fee levels on minor fee levels on the main chain are, you will be able to do that.
Yeah, this kind of confirms the claim of that not everyone has to use the Bitcoin main chain. Maybe that's the future of adoption and scalability. Like, and this this claim is as old as Bitcoin. Like the vision of the early Bitcoiners, of some of them at least, not the big cashers and all those persons, was that you will use the main network, the mainnet, to make settlements, big settlements of bitcoins, and then the layers to make cheap payments and use it more or less like cash or a better instrument, small payments like Lightning is today. And so that's our. I think you are accomplishing that vision of you know not making the user having to use the pegging and peg out system from BTC to RBTC, which could get very expensive. It takes up to 100 blocks, which is around 30 hours, day and a half. So again, from the user experience, that's a win for Boltz and for everyone. I know the Rootstock ecosystem has delayed a little bit its growth and adoption, but this year we are seeing many decentralized exchanges implementing it, and projects and companies like Boltz too. So I'm very excited. We are on April 11, and at least 8 different platforms have implemented Rootstock assets so far. So
yes,
I
and
think
it's coming to wallets as well, to mobile wallets. You have Wallby. We're
yeah.
seeing more and more multi-layer wallets being released, which is extremely powerful. And how I think if we are thinking a little bit further down the road, what we can envision as well is that once you are in a layer 2 or in a side chain and in Lightning, the touching points with the main chain will and can be minimal. For example, you could also move from Liquid to Rootstock directly, right? So let's say you're an Aqua user, and you want to go directly to RBTC, you can do so directly without any touching points with the main chain, or even with Lightning if you don't want to, right? So that's the connection of sidechains and layers will be very, very powerful in order to minimize chain footprint on the main chain.
I didn't know that was possible.
It is.
Swapping from Liquid to Rootstock.
It is.
How so?
Liquid is technology-wise. Liquid is a Bitcoin core fork. So it's just very, very similar to use than Bitcoin. It is, I don't know, 95%. Not sure what the correct number is, but that close that we basically could reuse the existing atomic swap technology that we have for Bitcoin exactly for Liquid, with smaller differences for the blinding and stuff that they have, like some special features in Liquid. But in the end, technology-wise, it's the same. Then going from RBTC to the Bitcoin main chain, you go from RBTC to Liquid. It behaves exactly the same. Technology is the same.
Yeah, they are very close to the Bitcoin technology, and
yes,
that's good to make things compatible and more easier. So I assume that you envision that this is the future of scalability on Bitcoin, like on layers that might form an ecosystem that will be in some areas well integrated, and maybe other side chains will be different from another ones and might not be able to completely integrate, but the scenario is there. You could see that too.
Definitely. So for me, scaling in layers is the only way to scale. So I am personally opposed to trying to scale the main chain layer too much, at least right now. I think we're not there yet. And any proposal anyways is doomed to fail right now. So scaling in layers is the only way forward. And what I hope to see is actually more layers, more different layers with different properties, right? So right now we have Lightning, which everyone agrees is Bitcoin layer 2. Then we have sidechains, which, for example, are Rootstock and Liquid. Layer 2 is a definition that probably doesn't fully apply to Rootstock and Liquid, because I agree with the definition that for a layer 2, for an actual Bitcoin layer 2, you need to be able to, it's called unilaterally exit from this layer, and that is not exactly possible with sidechains, but still it works well enough for most people to use it for using financial products, using it for intermediate spending accounts. Basically, that's totally fine. So what I really hope to see is to have more layers in the future, more layers that adhere to the unilateral exit property, and more layers that just have different characteristics. We have ARC, we have so much in the works. There's Fetty and the whole eCash system. There are just so many layers suddenly popping up. There's a lot of roll-ups. It's really hard to even keep track and even know which ones are real and which ones are just marketing and docs, and it's so much happening right now. But I think it's finally coming to fruition that Bitcoin is scaling in layers, and it's happening. That's not a question for me.
I was checking this web page the other day. I'm gonna share my screen now.
L2 Watch.
L2 Watch. Yeah, it's.
Yes.
Can you see it? No, you can't. There it is.
No,
L2.
yes, yeah.
I haven't dived in most of these sidechains or L2s, but I'm not so sure about some of them. For example, this one, Arbitrum 1, is labeled as a wrapped token, and the native token, I believe, is Arbitrum. This is the same with Cardano, I believe. So I don't know what these guys are really trying to do. What is their approach? But there are some others that seems to be fair. For example, Botanics.
The next spider chain, or how they call it.
Yeah. Fedimint, I don't know if, it's eCash. It's a Chaumian eCash. I don't know if it's a sidechain. For me, a sidechain.
No, not a sidechain.
I mean, Liquid.
That's not a chain.
It's not a chain. Liquid and Rootstock have their own blockchains.
Yes. Funny.
No, this Ethereum is there. Oh man, no, this got out of control. It was good a few weeks ago, but now it's weird to see all this. So again, I
want to mention now that you opened the site. So for us, we actually have one property really, that one requirement that needs to be fulfilled, if we want to integrate it into Boltz as a Boltz swap. So it needs to be Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is defined for us as a one-to-one relationship, backed one-to-one by main chain Bitcoin. That is the case for Rootstock. That is the case for Liquid. For others, that's not the case. For example, Wrapped Bitcoin, WBTC on Ethereum is not one-to-one. It actually has an exchange rate. It slightly differs. So that is a problem for us. So there are certain exchange rate risk that you're exposed to if you were to offer these kind of. So for us, it's really important that it's one-to-one.
So you would be interested into making or deploying swaps with other chains, let's say Ethereum, or let's say Monero? I mean,
no, it needs to be Bitcoin. So if this other chain, the technology doesn't really matter that much. What is important is that it has a one-to-one main chain backed Bitcoin asset on this chain, and then we can do it.
Yeah.
The second small requirement that also extends to the fees. So if you do a swap, you need to do a transaction on this other layer, and the transaction fee has to be paid in this exact Bitcoin token as well. If it's paid in something else, like I don't know, I just saw ADA or it's the Stacks token, that's a problem for us, right? So we can't deal with something that is not Bitcoin, because then again we have an exchange rate risk. So for us, this list that you just opened, it actually shrinks down to not that many anymore that actually fulfill these requirements.
It's funny because when I first heard about atomic swaps and submarine swaps, I might not know the difference between both of them, but it was introduced to me like a way to yeah, to do cross-chain exchanges, and they were presenting it like, okay, you can have Bitcoin on Ethereum, or you can have Bitcoin and Litecoin, for example, which were two similar networks at the time. So when I first heard about swapping between Lightning and Bitcoin through atomic swaps, it sounded weird to me. But now I get it. Okay, now I know that's possible now. But at the beginning, it was introduced like a way to move along different chains.
It doesn't well, in atomic swap doesn't have to be between different chains. It can be on the same chain as well. For example, on Liquid or Rootstock, let's say you have RBTC, or you have different stable coins. You can swap one stable coin for another in an atomic swap on Rootstock, never leaving Rootstock. The same you can do on Liquid. So the atomic swap really is just, and submarine swap, the same concept applies, is just you're swapping two assets atomically. It doesn't define where these assets reside, where they live, which layer or which chain. It doesn't have to be cross-chain. And by the way, funny that you mentioned Litecoin. We actually experimented with Litecoin in our very early days, like back in 2019. And we finally delisted it because, well, demand was low and it was a pain to maintain. We even had Lightning on Litecoin. That was a thing back then, and tried, finding a use case there. It was not used and not maintained, and the software was bad. But in the end, what made us decide to delist it is it's really, really, really difficult to handle the exchange rate risk as a business. So if you have to make sure that you're profitable and that you don't have anyone exploiting the exchange rate and trading against you and winning against you, and you're actually losing money, that's really not easy to do. And that was the reason why we said, okay, if it's all on Bitcoin, there is no risk, and that's how we will go about it.
Yeah, the difference between tokens or crypto assets price might become a new risk or something that you can leverage on your benefit at the expense of the exchange or the service you are using. So it's better to have one asset with the same price, and the only deductible price that you're gonna run with is the fee. The service fees.
Yes.
So it's a very good approach. So we hope that these more wallets are able to integrate atomic swaps from Bitcoin to Rootstock and other sidechains. I'm very excited for, as I said, we are very early into this year, and many people are looking for solutions to scale Bitcoin from the mainnet, but I don't agree to have to change the code and insert all these things. I prefer to scale on sidechains. Some people have, they don't like sidechains. They think there are some type of affinity scams. They trying to be like Bitcoin or something like that, or maybe you can criticize the level of centralization, privacy, but for me, it's very hard to replicate, almost impossible to replicate Bitcoin. I mean, you can't have sidechains that repeat the same story of Bitcoin with a Satoshi Nakamoto that magically disappears and is not pre-mined and all that stuff that makes Bitcoin what it is. Like, it's very hard to replicate, and if someone will try it, it might fail, or it might not be true.
Yeah, so, it doesn't even make sense, in my opinion. You want to make a trade-off in order to have a different benefit, right? So you want to make the trade-off of having way less decentralization, but having the benefit of being able to move faster, change the consensus rules faster with a closer set of a federation, for example. You want to have these trade-offs. Otherwise, you're just replicating what you already have on Bitcoin, and that you want to have different properties that you want to leverage, in my opinion. Yes.
Yeah, you are looking out for different properties that Bitcoin than Bitcoin doesn't have.
Exactly.
Like, so, I think there are some maybe some dogmas on the Bitcoin community that we haven't reflected on properly yet. For example, this thing about don't trust, verify. I mean, that's for at certain point it's good to not trust and verify, but not many people are able to do that in the full
Totally.
extent of the expression. To check the code and all that stuff. The normie user is not skilled enough to do that. So the trade-off is to trust and hope for the best. And for me, every transaction involves a certain level of trust. That's basically one of the main reasons that any kind of transactions happen. Not because there are other benefits, but because of trust. If you're having a business partner, you're gonna think beyond the offer or the margin that you're gonna take out of that trade with your business partner. You trade with him because you trust about that his claims are truth,
Yes.
and
Or in,
his reputation and all that stuff counts and makes it part of the trust that you involved in these relations.
yeah.
So
I think this is the same way. I didn't read much of Bitcoin core code because I can't even, right? So I trust since the code is available and everyone can read it, and there are a lot of capable people that read it and that tested it and that are working on it. So I trust that they did their diligence, and I basically trust a much larger group that they verified that code for me, and that's why I'm running the code. The same way for service like Boltz, our code is also open and verifiable on GitHub. So you can also trust that someone went there and checked out how the web app exactly is enforcing the atomic properties of the swap, and that it's indeed a non-custodial swap. Then you can actually run it locally, and you just trust that somebody did that already. And if there was something off with it, you'd probably hear about it, right? So that our reputation would suffer if we would be lying, right? So if we were doing something shady. So that's a level of trust that you're basically putting in, but you have to have some basic requirements fulfilled. Is that people can actually audit the code, that people can actually properly follow what's going on in order to, the technically capable people can follow what's going on and verify for you.
yeah, so let's say like there's a trilemma between privacy. Well, not a trilemma. It will be more of a, a bigger dilemma between centralization, privacy, cheap transactions, and yeah, cost of. So you have to position yourself in one of those benefits and do the trade-off. I mean, maybe if you have an increased centralization, you will have cheaper transactions or faster transactions. But maybe you will have less privacy. That's a
Or more privacy. So in the case of Liquid, it's actually, even though the set of block producers is much smaller, it's 15 to be exact. But the privacy is actually better because they decided they were able to coordinate onto a cryptographic scheme called confidential transactions. Actually increases your privacy for you as a user, and they were able to coordinate on faster block times, which and is a benefit for you as user as well. So it's but they sacrifice the decentralization for that. So usually if you sacrifice one, you can scale on the other two dimensions.
yeah. So we are on that search, on that, to see what's the best way. Yeah, well, where's the sweet spot into all of this? Is your API open and free to use by other services, or okay?
Yes. It's very well documented by now. We even have a second version of our API just went live a couple of weeks ago. So it's all brand new. You can see that docs.boltz.exchange. That's where it's documented, and the endpoints are there. So everything is actually using our API. Also, if you go to Boltz Exchange and use the web app to click, it's also using the API under the hood. So everything is going via our open API. And there are a couple more clients. If you use the Agua wallet, it's directly calling the API. We also have a swap client called Boltz Client for node runners, for Lightning node runners to rebalance their nodes. It's directly using the API. So we have different clients by now that are connecting to our API.
Yeah, I just saw that a month ago you launched your, I believe this is your first Boltz client.
Yes, so we had a client kind of before, but it was limited in what it could do. Now it's just behaving how you would expect it. So it works with not only LND, it works with CLN as well. And it can actually do things automatically for you. So that was the key property that was missing from the old client. The old client, you could connect it to your Lightning node, but then you still had to go into the CLI or into your RTL interface and then manually do the swap. So that is nice, but it's not what most people are searching for. Most people, like a merchant, for example, would want that the channels are being rebalanced automatically based on some fee properties that are set and level and thresholds that are set, and that's what Boltz Client delivers now.
You can basically swap Lightning between LND and which is the other LND and CLN.
No, the idea is that you rebalance an LND or CLN by using either the main chain or Liquid. So the new thing is that you can also use Liquid for rebalancing. For example, if you're running out of inbound liquidity, you can send out Lightning and receive on Liquid back instead of the main chain because it's cheaper and faster. Right? So that is the thing. But the main feature the main feature is now that you can do it automatically. You say if channel reaches 75% local balance, swap back to 50-50 using maximum this and this fee, and then the client does it for you. It just runs there and does it for you, and it will do it all the time for you without you needing to touch anything.
Well, with all of this, I think that Boltz is a very powerful tool to integrate different sidechains. I congratulate you. It's very exciting to even think what's coming ahead. So I would like you to talk us about your projects, what you have in mind for this year, besides, of course, the Rootstock integration. And I know you're planning a lot of more things.
Rootstock will be next, right? So that's a pretty big feature still, and there's still a couple of rough edges to be fixed up. For example, with Rootstock, we still have to finalize a feature so that users do not need RBDC in order to move into Rootstock for new users. So that's something that was previously not possible. Basically, to swap into Rootstock, you already needed RBDC in order to receive it, which is really bad because we want new users that do not have a single Satoshi of RBDC yet to go in. This is all stuff that we still need to finalize. Then the chain swaps that you can go from BTC to RBDC, but probably the next and right thereafter, we are already working with 3 different teams to actually natively integrate it into Rootstock projects, so that you don't need to use our website, but it's natively integrated in there. And funnily, one is actually a hardware wallet. So the use case that we described before with Agua, that you're able to pay to Lightning by holding a liquid balance, will be actually possible with RBDC as well. So that's at least how far I understood how they're integrating our swaps. But it's super cool. So it will be a hardware wallet card that you can use to spend Lightning while holding RBDC. So I'm not allowed to reveal any details about the project yet, but it's pretty promising stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of unforeseen capabilities and possibilities ahead.
I didn't think of it. Yes.
Yeah, no one would think of that. But as you integrate more teams and more talent and more skilled individuals in the different areas and sidechains and projects, I think the ideas will eventually come up and. and it will spark the creation of new tools and new functionalities.
Yes. So we really see ourselves. We are very aware of that fact. So Boltz swaps are really a primitive, something that is happening in the background. We call ourselves like the guys in the background, the service that runs in the background, just enabling all these things. But we could not possibly imagine what people will do with it. And then, well, what is there after? That's a very good question. You saw the list L2.watch. Which one would you pick? It's not an easy
like a lot of work. A lot of work to integrate all these L2s.
Yes, but we have to figure out which ones do have merit, which ones are actually production grade ready, which ones do have a demand, because it does make sense that we have a swap pair for something that is still alpha, beta, and nobody uses it, right? So we can also imagine that's something. I have a vision to also chain up our swaps with a stablecoin swap. So I don't know if that will work out yet, but it's a plan, an idea we have. We stay Bitcoin to Bitcoin, and you can go, let's say, Lightning to RBTC, but then we use an existing atomic swap on a DEX on Rootstock to go from RBTC to DLLR or to USDT or to some other stable coin. But in the interface, it will just say Lightning to USDT or Lightning to
exactly will be
but in the background it will be two swaps happening that are chained together. So that is probably the next big feature set that we want to move into. So yeah, there's that.
Since I got into Bitcoin in 2016, I mean, of course, my first experience or my first thought when using a wallet and going along all that process of backing up your wallet, sending transactions, whatever, the first thing I thought was how complicated it was, the user experience and the user interface. So since then I knew that Bitcoin UX UI needed to be improved for really work it out, Sometimes I got a little bit frustrated when people try to find solutions into straight ahead scalability solutions, like all these things that we were discussing, like, okay, let's try to change the code to make cheaper transactions or to generate the stable coins or different solutions or whatever. And while you can do that on UX UI, and it will be out of the protocol. So right now I know I need to dive in, and most of these products are not yet fully developed, but I know that some people are working on some kind of advanced or sophisticated computing systems that works outside of the protocol. For example, BitVM. And Lightning works in a certain way outside of Bitcoin, in a certain manner.
Of the Bitcoin yes.
Yeah, so it was a very sophisticated solution at the time, and I think more people are realizing that if you are able to develop systems that are capable to do certain process, and maybe you can secure them with a simple cryptography, you can have a very good product that can integrate with Bitcoin and ease the things for the users without sacrificing security and all the
speed and transaction costs mostly. That's what these systems are aiming for. So there's a huge development of rollups that are coming to Bitcoin now. Some of them originate from other ecosystems. Some of them are new. But the basic idea is to use BitVM to verify proofs, usually zero knowledge proofs that are coming from these rollups on the Bitcoin main chain. And everything else, all transactions, the computation of the proof is all happening outside of the chain, obviously. So yes, it's a very powerful concept, and that's where we're going.
Well, Kilian, it was nice to having you in sharing this big news for the Rootstock ecosystem. Very happy for you. I hope I get to see you this year, maybe in Spain or El Salvador.
I'm planning to be in El Salvador soon. I'll let you know privately. We should meet up. Yes.
Yeah. See you here then. Show you some places, or hang out.
Sounds good.
So this was Kilian from Boltz Exchange. Very glad to have you here, and remember to follow Boltz HQ on Twitter and Kill Rao on Twitter too. Boltz.exchange. Use the platform. You are guys free to dive into the platform, make swaps with on-chain, Bitcoin, Lightning, Liquid as well is available right now, and coming soon. Where is coming the Rootstock integration? Maybe in a month or something.
Something like that, yeah. Won't be tomorrow, but somewhere next month, I think, is realistic. So if one of the listeners or watchers is up to help us test a little bit, go to testnet.boltz.exchange and give us feedback. That helps us a lot.
Yeah, so help us make this integration come true. Try the testnet for Boltz Lightning Rootstock, and we'll be happy to share the final announcement in a few weeks.
Yes, let's do that.
Well, see you then. This was Talks with Saro with Kilian, Money on Chain. Up to the next one.
Thanks.
See ya. Bye.